having that balance, human and machines should work together so that you offer better customer experience, better candidate experience, right evaluation, speed, everything will come together and you will have a better returns on your investments. So having that balance has really worked out for the customer, and that yielding a lot of good results from not just from a final selection perspective for the candidate, but candidates, their offer to joining ratio has also increased. So the small change, process plus people, has yielded them the drastic results. So to talk to these 20-30 candidates, you might have to go to like 50-60 resumes, right? Now, when you have this sheer volume of candidates in a single day for a one recruiter, it's going to be a nightmare for them, believe me.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Tuesdays with Trailblazers, brought to you by Hrtech Edge, the video podcast where we bring you the latest trends and insights in HR and technology. I'm your host Siddesh, and today we have with us Nitesh Kankariya, CEO at Geniehire.AI. Nitesh believes in solving the broken hiring problems with AI and making AI interviews accessible to every company out there. So without further ado, let's welcome Nitesh. Hey Nitesh, how are you doing today?
Hey, Sid, all good, all good. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Great, Nitesh. We're quite excited to see what wonderful insights you have for us today.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's get into it.
Starting off with it, Nitesh, well, I just happened to go through your LinkedIn profile, right? And I was intrigued by two statements written in your LinkedIn profile. You said that you want to solve the broken hiring problem. From your perspective, what's actually, not working, and how can AI help fix those gaps?
Yeah, so I think I've been in the industry for long enough, and I've hired a lot of folks. I myself was hired, so I've gone through the journey by myself, interviewed at different places early at my career, interviewed with multiple companies, and I have my own entrepreneurial journey as well, where I'm keep hiring people. So I have experienced that from both perspective. Now, where the challenges are happening in the recruitment process or hiring process is there are a lot of people that are applications that recruiter has to go through for a single position. So let's say you have a single position, or you at least on daily basis, you might be talking to 20-30 candidates to assess whether they are the right fit candidate. So to talk to these 20-30 candidates, you might have to go to like 50-60 resumes, right? Now, when you have this sheer volume of candidates in a single day for a one recruiter, it's going to be a nightmare for them, believe me. And when the pressure starts building, when the position is opened like 3-4 weeks back and still not closed, now if you see the quality of this candidates and stuff like that goes drastically low. Now there is too much pressure on the recruiter. Now when there is too much pressure, what they do is they just snap it and then just see whether the candidate is fit or not. Now when they do these momentarily decisions, those are not quality decisions. Now they are just like looking at the keywords, whether, okay, this skill match, and not really looking at the holistic experience of the candidate. Now, what that happens is you are really bringing like maybe good candidates or not so good candidates. In that, you're spending a lot of time on like filtering out the candidates, whereas recruiters' core job should be focusing on the right candidate. Now, because of this volumes of pressure on the team, the timelines are dragging, so that happens. So that is one aspect that's happening in the recruitment space from a recruiter perspective. Now, once the candidate has been shortlisted by the recruiter, now there comes the interview part. Now, on daily basis, a person might have to take like multiple interviews, a skill person. So there are two aspects to it. One, the person has to be skillful and trained to conduct an interview, right? Now, sometimes, let's say when you do not have a staff to conduct an interview, you might get someone to, hey, can you look at this person? Can you take an interview? And a lot of time what happens is without prior training, a person is taking the interview. Along with that, they have a lot of other stuff to do throughout the day. Now that's where the quality of the interview is tracked. There are a lot of conscious, unconscious biases that are trigged in during the interview. Now, because of that, that conversation with the candidate dries down and the assessment of the candidate does not meet the quality which your leadership team or your company is looking for. Now, with that, like you're dragging too much from a timeline perspective, pressure on the team, quality is impacted, and as a result of that, you might end up in a bad hire. And believe me, like once you have a bad hire, there are multiple dimensions that gets impacted from the team perspective. So that's, I think, is the problem that I've been seeing from both the sides. The other problem, which I said, is from the organizations who are hiring. Now, on the candidate side, now candidate has given an interview, right, or went through the process. There are multiple rounds that are happening. Now, interviewer needs to like fill in the feedback, giving the feedback, internal discussion needs to happen, and it prolongs the decision that gets to the candidate. Till that candidate gets nervous, anxious, what's going to happen? They're eternally waiting to get a response from a recruiter, because again, recruiter will have to make those 20, 30 calls of that day, and the candidate is still waiting. So candidate experience gets impacted. And when experience gets impacted, the version that they have about the company, that's changed. So they might be like very enthusiastic when they started off with, let's say, the hiring process and stuff. Now it's been 2 weeks, no response from a recruiter. Now, the motivation goes down, and maybe they are questioning now after 2 weeks of silence from the company or the recruiter. So these are the fundamental problems. There are much more, but then these are fundamental problems that are there in organization that have the recruitment going on ongoing basis.
Makes perfect sense. And when I look back, I think these are very genuine problems that, actually need a fix. I mean, these go under the carpet, they get rugged under the carpet. And I genuinely believe that these need a fix as well. But having said that, Nitesh, AI interviews sound really promising. But how do you make them accessible for companies of all sizes, not just, large enterprises with big budgets?
Yeah, so definitely, I think every company, when it comes to AI interview or adopting to any tool, definitely like costing will come into picture. There are multiple dimensions on getting it accessible. Now, first is, I think, making it as a online accessible platform where anybody can access it and they can go live within like few minutes. So usual, I think, traditional products or services, AI interviews or like interviews in general, it's a lengthy process, right, to fit into your workflow. Now, I think a lot of products are out there where you can get started within a minute. You just log in, sign up, you create your job, post it, and then like people can start applying an interview, right? So that makes it easily accessible, and you can onboard your process on your organization within few clicks. That is one thing. The other is, I think, the thing that you brought about the budgets. Now, if you see, technology has evolved much in last 2 to 3 years. Now, when we say evolve, it evolved from multiple dimensions. Again, the quality of the technology, how it resonates, the AI itself. There are a lot of models out there. There are training mechanisms are there. The data which is available now is working at very, very cheap. And there are models that are coming up which are giving you really good cost, which you can train on your own, or you can get their services and stuff. Now, if you think about a one person of your company is conducting interview, that itself is a cost to your company, right? Because you're paying that person for that 1 hour. Now, what if half of that cost AI is taking the interview without worrying about or hassling about the scheduling part, or running behind the interviewer. Hey, when is your next slot available? Give me that, and then scheduling that interview, which work with the candidate and the interviewer at the same time. Whereas AI is working half of the cost without any biases during the interview, and the candidate can take it at their own time without worrying about matching the time with the interviewer. So those, and I think one thing that I have seen is that a lot of people are worried about how well it integrates with my existing recruitment process. That is where I think it again is a challenge to make it accessible. It is accessible, then like it's there, but then how I'm going to integrate that into my workflow? So, lot of things have been done technology is evolving and a lot of workflows being established where it can well fit right within your existing hiring process. It continues to improve further.
It makes perfect sense what you've just said. Now, coming back to the questions for the podcast, where do you see AI adding the most value in the hiring process? And is it screening, is it selection, or improving the candidate experience altogether?
I think we just touched upon the problems in the hiring, right? And I think AI is adding value at each and every step of the hiring process, each and every step. Now, if you think about sourcing the candidate, now you wanna like the job requirement comes. So let's say it start with like you're posting a job, right? I can help you draft your well structured job position, right? It can give you the job description. Earlier you have to manually draft it. Now it can draft it in a way that it feels encouraging to the candidates. It feels motivated. It gives the transparency, clarity. So that's a very simple example, right? But then when candidate goes through the job description, hey, this looks perfectly fine with me. It aligns with my career goal and my current skills and stuff like that. And I see that company is doing this. So that could help me grow. I see that opportunity. So right from that very initial stage, very seeding stage of a hiring process, which is like a job description creation. Now, once you do that, you want to start looking for candidates, right? Now, when you start looking for candidates, there are multiple sources out there, right? You might use your existing tools, you might get it from vendors, you might go through like multiple portals and stuff like that. You download all that data. Now, what happens is earlier recruiters will have to go through those manually. It takes time. Now, what happens is you just feed it to the system. It's gonna screen and give you the top selected candidates within few minutes, which used to take like couple of days to go through these, let's say 500 resumes or whatever. Now you just upload it, it's give you, okay, these are 50 top match. That happens, just go and talk to them. Now the scale is one. The other aspect is which adding AI is adding value is the quality. Now, because of this volume, they're just going through the keywords. Traditional softwares, they were just keyword based. For example, let's say you're looking for a software developer. Do they have a front end skill? Do they have a back end skill? They have a, let's say, programming language, a Java, Python, or front end like React, things like that. They were just looking at the keywords. Now the customer requirements are changing. I want a software engineer in a healthcare industry. How are you getting that in the resume with just the keywords? It's like it's difficult, right? But when it comes AI, it actually looks at the details of your resume, the candidate's resume, what they have done, what in the industry they have done, what problems they have solved. And then looking at that holistically, it gives you, okay, this person looks to be fit for the thing that you're looking for. So you just search the query, I need a software engineer in this domain. I need software engineer specialized in this technology in this domain. Boom, you'll get that clarity. Now, the candidate selection happens. You have a conversation with the candidate. That is the second thing that comes is the interview. Again, candidate usual companies go through like multiple rounds of interviews, and every step of the way, like either they get filter it out or they cumulatively decide whether the candidate should go ahead or not. AI screening and competency evaluation, be it the video interview or in the tech role, for example, the coding rounds that are happening, those are happening automatically through AI without needing any help from any human being. You just send the invite to the candidate. Candidate take that at their own pace, that own time, complete that, and you get the results. Now you decide which candidate moves further in your pipeline, right? So here the AI is adding value from a time perspective and the quality, and it makes it even better your candidate experience. All from the job description creation to finalizing the candidate, every step of the way AI is adding value.
Well, and this next question I had, I believe is really important because it talks about biasness as well. A lot of leaders are still cautious, right? Especially when it comes to fairness in selection. So, how can companies use AI responsibly in hiring while making sure that the decisions remain fair, unbiased?
I think it's a very when the buzz started about AI, So there was a buzz about AI and there was buzz about or worry about biases or hallucination. You're asking something, but then AI is producing something else. In that context, how are we going to make a decision? You're ultimately the worry. I mean, worry was that you're making wrong decision at a high speed, at a high scale, right? So I think it's a genuine concern that people used to have, but again, like a lot of enhancements are happening in the technology. The models and the data that you trained on has tremendous amount of clarity and cleanup that has happened where it reduces the bias. So now when we say biases, there are two aspects that comes in. The technology itself, does it have a bias? Or when you use the technology, which is bias free. Now, for example, let's say you're screening the resume, you are instructing the AI, okay, screen this resume for this role. Okay. Now, if you are not giving too much clarity about what you want, there is much that AI also can do, right? It will have its own reasoning and thinking. But then when you give more clarity, what exactly you want, how you want, when you want. So these kind of details, if you feed to your AI, it will yield you better results, right? So when I say two parts, the technology itself, it has evolved better. And it also has like a lot of governance applied around the technology itself, where if it doesn't know, it says, probably, I think you have to have a human in the loop. The second thing is, are you using AI cautiously? Are you using it with the clarity? Now, when we combine both of these together, I think it eliminates biases in that process with quite a bit extent.
This makes perfect sense. Now, another aspect I wanted to discuss is the fact that AI is kind of the latest buzzword. Everyone literally wants AI in their stack, right? But all of us know that ideally preparation is the key. So, what should organizations have in place before introducing AI into their hiring process?
Yeah, so I think it's not just the hiring process, like it applies to every industry, every process, be it, let's say, operational process, delivery processes, or let's say, even for example, let's say manufacturing, healthcare, whatever. Any industry you take, now everybody wants to use AI. Now, first and foremost thing to, enable or use AI is, I think a lot of things has to be clear. First is, I mean, not just like using any tool, like just buying tools doesn't like give you make you the AI company, right? So you need to make sure that you have a clarity on, when I say you means like company leaders, founders, and even the decision makers or the leadership in the team should know what their goals are. What are their objectives about being AI? But I mean, again, AI is a technology, right? Tomorrow something else comes, right? So first you need to make sure what are your objectives. You need to have that good clarity. Once you have that clarity, then see how you want to have your process in place. Now, you brought up the example about the hiring. Now, do you have a hiring which is very structured? Though you are doing it manually, does your current hiring process is very structured, very with good depth, clarity? Are you able to catch the bad guys or bad candidates or wrong hires? Do you have the right metrics in place to evaluate the candidate? So once you have all of these structured processes in place, then it becomes evident and better for you to leverage the AI tools and technologies. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say you are hiring for a position. Any position you wanna mention?
Let's say I hire, let's move away from tech a bit. Let's say I hire for sales.
Perfect example. Let's say you wanna hire for a salesperson. Let's say you wanna hire for a sales manager. Now, what are the skills that you're looking for? What are the attributes that you're looking for in the sales manager person, right? So first, you need to have a clarity. The HR team, the leadership team needs to know what kind of person that I want. Once you have that clarity, then you set up a process, certain process. Round one is going to conduct or evaluate these kind of attributes or skills. The second round is going to conduct these attributes and skills. The final round is focusing on these particular skills. If you, let's say, if you do not have these, everybody's asking the same question. Hey, tell me your targets. And then candidate is like, okay, I'm answering the same question in the 3 interviews. But I think before you utilize any AI or whatever, any technology for that matter, you need to have a clarity in your process. Make sure that it's throughout that process, you're having smart guardrails and stuff like that. That then whatever you're doing on top of that, utilizing the technology or AI is going to make massive and you'll get heavy returns on your investment. So having a clarity, having a clean process makes you better position into leveraging that latest technology, in that case, sense AI.
I mean, yeah, makes total sense to me. Like you're hiring for skills, but at the same time, it's important to understand, what skills are you looking for before you hire those skills sets, right? So makes total sense.
You don't want to figure that out during the interview. Okay, this is what I wanted.
Now, Nitesh, let's talk about the talent itself. Are you seeing a shift in the kind of skills that companies prioritize as AI becomes a part of hiring?
Yeah, I mean, I think last couple of years have drastically changed. I have been speaking to a lot of companies, founders, my own network, and definitely there is a shift that has been happening about the talent itself, right? Now, if we take a step back, now I'll tell you the reason why there is a shift. Consider you, let's say, a founder who's starting some adventure, okay? Let's say they want to solve some problem, okay? Now, when they want to solve some problem, traditionally, I think there was some process. Okay, you take some piece of it, you interview your customers, you understand the market, you understand the pain points, and then you slowly iterate. It's usually used to take like 3 to 4 years for any startup to at least establish and go into that market. Now the customer expectations have changed drastically. They want speed, they want quality, they want cost. And at the same time, there are a lot of competitions that are also happening. Now, with use of technology, with use of AI, the speed of delivery of any prototype or any application has reduced drastically, which used to take, let's say, a year to build, now can be built within 1 month or 2 months time frame. Okay. Now, when such environment is happening, your demand for a talent which can produce the same result within that time frame needs to adapt. You're saying what I'm trying to say, right? So now the talent is one part, but then it's driven by the market, the customers, and the technology. And that has implication on demand of the talent, right? So now the shift is not just about the skills, technical skills. Do you know the coding? Do you know the negotiation in the sales position? Do you know, are you able to close the position or close the contract, right? So those are, I think, very baseline, now became a very baseline. What people want is, or is needed from a talent perspective, is adaptability, right? How quickly can you adapt? Let's say you're working on some project. Now something changed. Either it's a customer expectation change, the market has changed, or the roadmap has changed. How quickly can you adapt? How swiftly you can make that shift? Or are you rigid enough just to stay in that, okay, I used to do this and I'm still in that zone to do that? How quickly can you adapt? How quickly can you learn? What leadership principles are you have, do you have showcase during those shifts? So those are now became a mainstream, and the skills, the technology, the core skills have now become bare minimum for a candidate, and all the other skills that are now became necessity for any candidate. So that is the shift that's happening from a talent demand perspective.
And I'm sure you'll agree that there's also a risk of leaning too much on automation, right? So how do you make sure that these companies don't over rely on AI and end up, missing unconventional talent?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think that's a solid statement, that, and a very strong question that you have asked us. Sid. And I can resonate that, because when you have, I think there was one point where founders had pressure about AI. Their investors are asking, where are you using AI in your workflows, in your processes, or in your product? And a lot of people, a lot of founders, out of that pressure, they were just scrambling and then trying to see, like, forcing it. how can I fit AI or technology, this latest trends and stuff like that into my workflows. But I think to get back to your question, um, over automation is the risk when you drive that under pressure. Again, when I said, I think that it also resonates with the previous question that you have asked, is when you have a depth of clarity about your goals, about your objectives, and try to find what is the right solution for it instead of is AI. Maybe AI might not be the right solution for you during that, for that, let's say, particular situation. But then just because of the word buzzword, you're saying, okay, let me utilize the AI. Maybe it's pricey for you. Maybe a simple conventional process might work for you. And there has been examples that we have seen where maybe the latest stuff was not very, that did not yield that much of result, but then conventional ways were okay. So there we did not use AI. We still rely on, because we had a clarity. Okay, this is my objective and these are my options on the table, and this option works better for me. Now, getting back about the conventional talent, right? So if you see the conventional talent means that the word that I've sensed from your question, conventional talent is the person who's going like above and beyond, thinking out of the box, not sticking to the status quo, right? Those people, and really those are the people who makes a difference, right? Those people bring different perspective to the table. Those people are who, these unconventional people who like think differently. They resonate, they argue about some certain things. And when that happens, the innovation starts seeding in, and then they take it, water it, and then grow it. Now, if we too much rely on AI, right, to do that, there is a risk of missing those talent as well. Because if you do not use the technology the right way, as we've been discussing, right, like make sure that you know the clarity what you want about the talent, what round 1, 2, 3 should expect. Let AI do the minimum, whatever is needed to evaluate the candidate, from a skills perspective, whether see if it's a right fit and stuff, and then really have a final round with hiring manager who's really looking at those skills, those attributes, those attitude, to know whether this person is a differentiator, what additional things he's bringing to the table along with the bare minimum skills that you're looking for. So if you over rely and eliminate the human completely out of your process, be it hiring or anything else, there is a risk of losing that unconventional talent. So make sure that there is human in the process. Let technology or AI do what is needed to be done, and take charge of the differentiator factor which you're bringing to the table, to the candidate, to the experience, and really find those diamonds that otherwise would have been difficult to find.
Absolutely, absolutely. It makes perfect sense because of the fact that, when these kind of hires do happen, I believe there's a terminology called, these guys get hired by gut instinct, right? So there's a human element to it when we speak about gut instinct. And because AI relies a lot on a set of rules and automation, right? So obviously the fact that these unconventional folks cannot be hired, using a set of rules, and, need that gut instinct. So totally agree on that, having a final round where you have a human, actually looking into the aspects of hiring these unconventional people. So, Nitesh, what does a well balanced process look like in that case? How should AI and human judgment work together in hiring?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong question, because a lot of people might just be, okay, how can I leverage AI or technology in my process and stuff, which might leave your process very rigid at times, right? When you enforce the process where maybe it doesn't matter. So I think we have to be cautious. Like the decision makers, founders, owners should make that conscious judgment about how my process should look like. Now, I'll give you a very simple example. So I was working with, my team was working with one of the customer, and they were shortlisting the candidate through Geniehire.AI, and then scheduling the interview on that platform. And they were, as automation, Geniehire was sending them, the candidate, the email, the reminders. hey, this company is looking for this job role, and you are a good fit. Take this interview and stuff. But what we have emphasized to the customer is, though we will send all the touch points with your candidate, it's better that you have at least one touch point at the beginning when you start the process, so that the candidate has the full depth and clarity about the process. It's not just about the process itself, but what is the company, what are the values, what is the culture looks like, what to expect during that process, what to expect after the process, what are your expectations from a company, or like they both candidate and company can exchange, so that there is a relationship, there is a bond that established between the company and the candidate. Now, for example, let's say you're just going through the process without having a human. The candidate might be interviewing at 5 other places, right? How do you know how much emotion that the candidate has about your company? Let's say everybody is offering the same, one way or the other, the same thing to the candidate. Now, how the candidate will make a decision which company to go among these 5 offers that he's getting? He will get where he had that human connection, where he resonate better, where he think that he might fit into that environment better. Now, it's responsibility of the recruiter or hiring manager to give that clarity to the candidate. Now, having too much information also puts you into paralysis. So having that balance has really worked out for the customer, and that yielding a lot of good results, from not just from a final selection perspective for the candidate, but candidates, their offer to joining ratio has also increased. So the small change, process plus people, has yielded them the drastic results. So having that balance, human and machines should work together so that you offer better customer experience, in that case, the better candidate experience, right evaluation, speed, everything will come together, and you will have a better returns on your investments. And you are definitely, that will lead you to the good growth.
Makes sense. And finally, coming to metrics, how are companies rethinking their hiring metrics now that AI is kind of become part of the process?
All the companies, right, when they are into startup phase, then they mid-size, and then they grow large scale companies and stuff. One thing that happens, and I think that resonates with me as well, is we build metrics over a period of time to monitor each and everything. When you work with a very small set of people, you know everything by your site, and you know everything what's going on. And then when it start to scale, you rely on metrics. At the start, you rely on like very rigid, rudimentary metrics. Now, for example, in the recruitment, how many final selects you have, how many candidates call you have, how many interviews are done, or how many joinings you have had in a month, what is the time to close. So those kind of metrics used to be evaluated. Now the game has completely changed to look at the talent and the hiring process itself. Now I'll tell you like what companies are looking at. Did this person grow in their career after they joined? How did this perform better? Did we make a right decision about this candidate? How this person looks like in the 3 months, 9 month, or year of their tenure in the company. So these kind of metrics are become more prominent for companies to look at. Now, these bare minimum metrics, like raw metrics, these are help from an operational standpoint. But then when you look at the impact, now companies are looking at impact driven metric, where that are really needle mover for the organization. So while you shift your metrics to the objective oriented, the goal oriented, the outcome oriented, from a long term perspective, that is where you're backwards, working from backwards, everything is going to shift, and the metric that you rely on will yield you the better results.
Got it. Got it. Now, let's switch gears. We usually have a rapid fire round. So, one area where human judgment still matters most.
I think it's leadership principles of the candidate. For example, ownership,
Perfect. Biggest risk of using AI in hiring.
unstructured process, optimizing unstructured process using AI.
Okay. One sign your hiring process is ready for AI.
I think it's the other way around. When you have structured process, then you're ready for hiring, I think.
Okay. Is AI in hiring a competitive edge or a necessity?
Both. It is necessary, but But then if you use it right, it becomes competitive edge.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nitesh. Those were some wonderful answers. Those were some wonderful insights that you've shared with us. Really enjoyed hosting you on our podcast, Tuesdays with Trailblazers. And thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, stay tuned with HR Tech Edge for more insights. Till we meet again, signing off, your host, Siddesh.